You think the vicious anti-Donald Trump rhetoric is something new? Think again. The left has used harsh, over-the-top language against Republicans and conservatives for a very long time. Don't believe me? Let's take a multiple choice quiz, okay? Who said this? The George W. Bush administration and the Nazi and communist regimes all engaged in politics of fear. Indeed, the Bush administration has been able to improve on the techniques used by the Nazi and communist propaganda machines. Was it A, Miss Piggy, B, Lady Gaga, C, the dog whisperer, or D, George Soros, billionaire Democratic supporter? And the answer is?
I want to read to you a quote that sort of startled me, I'm sure a lot of your readers, once they read it. The Bush administration and the Nazi and communist regimes all engaged in the politics of fear. Indeed, the Bush administration has been able to improve on the technique used by the Nazi and communist propaganda machines by drawing on the innovations of the advertising and marketing industries. Now, when a lot of people hear comparisons between President Bush and Nazis and communists, they're going to say, George Soros, you've gone over the top. A lot of people will agree with you on that, yes. But where they will starkly disagree is to then bring in the whole Nazi and communist comparison.
You are actually, it's a valid point, and maybe I did go over the line.
Wow. Improved on the techniques used by the Nazi and communist regimes? Okay, who said this one? George W. Bush's executive branch has made it a practice to try and control and intimidate news organizations from PBS to CBS to Newsweek. And every day they unleash squadrons of digital brown shirts to harass and hector any journalist who is critical of the president. Was this A, Dan Rather, B, Katie Couric, C, Helen Thomas, or D, Al Gore, Nobel laureate? Well, that would be Al, an inconvenient truth, Gore. And by the way, here's a photo of the gentleman to whom he was referring. Digital brown shirts. Okay, who said this? Republicans are coming for our children. They're coming for the poor. They're coming for the sick, the elderly, and the disabled. A, Mother Teresa, B, the Grim Reaper, C, Jack Bauer, D, Representative John Lewis, Democrat of Georgia. And the winner is?
I know racism when I see it.
Hey, he knows racism when he sees it, right? Here's the next one. Who said this? The contest between Democrats and Republicans is a struggle of good and evil, and we're the good. A, Wolverine, B, Spider-Man, C, RoboCop, D, Howard Dean, then the Democratic National Committee chairman. Wins easy. And the winner is? If I never hear that, yeah, again, it'll be too soon. Who said this? When asked whether the number and prominence of blacks in the Bush administration suggested a lack of racism, this person said, Hitler had a lot of Jews high up in the hierarchy of the Third Reich. Was that A, Adolf Eichmann, B, Joseph Goebbels, C, Heinrich Himmler, or D, Harry Belafonte, entertainer and liberal activist? And the envelope goes to?
In the dictionary, anyone who brings terror to people is an act of terrorism and a terrorist.
George W. Bush is a terrorist. Who knew? Okay, who said this? He called President Bush's perceived lack of help for Katrina victims ethnic cleansing by inaction. He called it a, quote, calculated policy, and added, so by simply not doing anything to alleviate this crisis that was so greatly exaggerated by Katrina, they let the hurricane do the ethnic cleansing and their hands are clean. Was that A, David Duke, B, Jack the Ripper, C, Jeffrey Dahmer, D, Representative Barney Frank, Democrat of Massachusetts? And the answer is?
In a calculated way, refused to do anything for well over a year. And the policy, I think, is ethnic cleansing by inaction.
My goodness, ethnic cleansing by inaction. Okay, who said this? When you look at the way the Republican-controlled House of Representatives has been run, it's been run like a plantation, and you know what I'm talking about. Was that A, Kunta Kinte, B, Harriet Tubman, C, Booker T. Washington, D, then Senator Hillary Clinton, former First Lady and former Secretary of State? And the winner is?
Because when you look at the way the House of Representatives has been run, it has been run like a plantation, and you know what I'm talking about.
And you know what I'm talking about. I love that accent. Here's the next one. George Bush let people die on rooftops in New Orleans because they were poor and because they were black. Was that A, Ming the Merciless, B, Ivan the Terrible, C, Vlad the Impaler, or D, Senator Claire McCaskill, Democrat, Missouri? And the winner is Senator Claire McCaskill, who, by the way, didn't hold up very well under cross-examination.
Let me turn to George W. Bush because he's become an issue in the campaign. Ms. McCaskill, you were quoted in the pubdef.net giving a speech which was blogged saying, quote, she would remind people that, quote, George Bush let people die on rooftops in New Orleans because they were poor and because they were black. One, why would you say that, and do you believe it?
Well, first, I was acknowledging how thousands and millions of Americans felt. The visual that we all saw in Hurricane Katrina was frankly something none of us will ever forget. Incompetence turned tragic because the people there were unable to help themselves.
But do you think the president let people die because they were poor?
I do not believe the president is a racist. I was acknowledging the feelings of many, many Americans that this administration has left the most vulnerable, helpless. This administration has been about Wall Street and not about average Americans.
But do you apologize for this statement?
I think if it is misinterpreted that I was calling the president a racist.
Misinterpreted. George Bush let people die on rooftops because they were poor and because they were black.
I was acknowledging what Americans believed
so you stand
at the time. Absolutely, that's what Americans believed. Now, I don't believe he's a racist, and if people think, and maybe I shouldn't have said it that way, Tim. Maybe I should have said it another way. I probably should have said it another way. But the feelings are real.
This next one's a doozy. Who said this? It's not a slur for Hispanics or a slur for blacks anymore. Instead, Republicans say, let's cut taxes. A, Bernie Madoff, B, Bonnie and Clyde, C, Benny and the Jets, D, Representative Charlie Rangel, Democrat of New York. And the winner is a gentleman who is, shall we say, not a big fan of the GOP.
I think the Republican Party is doing this service to this country.
And then there's this one. And what we are dealing with right now in this country is whether we are having a kind of bloodless, silent coup or not. George W. Bush is trying to bring himself all the power to become an emperor, to create Empire America. End of quote. Who said that? Was it A, Darth Vader, B, Satan, C, the Reverend Pat Robertson, or D, Representative Jim McDermott, Democrat of Washington? And the answer is Mr. McDermott.
I was attacked for saying the president would mislead us into the war, but the American people ultimately learned the truth.
Finally, we end with this one. Who said this? We are in danger. The extreme right wing has seized the government. Tonight, John Ashcroft and the CIA and the FBI and Homeland Security and the IRS can work together. So look out, because without a definition of who a terrorist is, anyone can be. Martin Luther King could have been. The right-wing media, the FBI, they are targeting our leadership. End of quote. Was that A, Mr. T, B, Flavor Flav, C, Gary Coleman, or D, the Reverend Jesse Jackson? And the answer is, well, it ain't Sharpton.
Joining me now to talk about this and the nation's real problem of joblessness, the Reverend Al Sharpton. What's your reaction to hearing someone say, you know, when it comes to income inequality, all's well. The rising tide floats all boats.
I'm Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Right. I'm so sorry. The script in front of me said Reverend Al Sharpton. I'm looking at your face. I know who you are, Reverend Jackson. We all do.
Hey, don't feel too bad for Contessa Brewer. She rubbed some dirt on it, got back in the game. It's all good. I'm Larry Elder, and this has been the Larry Elder Show for Epic Times. I'll see you next time.